Got you! What is going on, my beautiful LARPers and LARPettes? Today we're going to go over what the heck these two contraptions are. These are called the Meta Tactical Apex Series Carbine Conversion Kits. Now, essentially they're just chassis systems that you can stick your Glock 17 into, or Glock 19, or Smith & Wesson M&P, or P80. They have a couple of different options that you can have as far as handguns that could go into these. But before I get into all that, what is my relationship with Meta Tactical? They did send these two out for me for review. I didn't pay for them, basically. They just sent them to me for free. And aside from that, I'd like to just thank the channel sponsor, Atlantic Firearms, for supporting my YouTube endeavors and all of my shenanigans that I've been doing on YouTube. So thank you guys for supporting this channel. Now, when I posted these on my Instagram, or one of these on my Instagram, I had a few questions where people were asking me, why the heck is that barrel kind of lifting up every time you're shooting? So every time I fire, it's doing this little dingle dangle action right there that most men know when their woman or their wife is saying, hey, can you do that thing? You know what thing I'm talking about, right? So the Meta Tactical, like I said earlier, is a chassis system that you can stick your Smith & Wesson M&P, like this one here. Let me see where you pull it out just like that. There's a couple pins that you have to pull, but this looks pretty ridiculous, right? You have a 16-inch barrel in your carry gun or your handgun or whatever gun you're gonna have, but a 16-inch barrel that is supplied with the carbine conversion kit. So essentially now your handgun that had a 4.5-inch barrel or whatever barrel you had in there is now a full-length rifle. So essentially, once you have that barrel in there, all you have to do is stick it into this slot right here and push this pin over and close this door here, and you're good to go. So once it's inside this chassis or this carbine conversion kit, it's essentially now a bullpup. So the magazine is now inserted in behind the trigger, right? So you have a charging handle up, and let me go over the details from the front to the back. But starting at the front here, you do get this little muzzle device. This is like a little bird cage flash hider type of deal here, but at the front is really interesting because it has like these little claws at the front, or these little tips at the front of it that kind of, I guess you can punch somebody in the face with it or something like that. That does thread off and on, so you can definitely put a suppressor on here. I have not tried it with the suppressor just yet, But I'm gonna put a lot more rounds through this thing because I'm very interested on how it's gonna perform with a suppressor on there with that barrel. So moving back onto the rail is aluminum, and the majority of this, maybe like 90% of it, is plastic. The trigger's plastic, grip is plastic, the body itself is plastic. The aluminum rail, the aluminum charging handle, and the aluminum, these two little points of adjustment here are aluminum as well. Then moving on down, you do have 3 M-lock slots on the right and 3 M-lock slots on the left. You also have 3 M-lock slots on the bottom. So if you wanted to put grip attachments on here, you can. And the cool thing about it, since it does look really, really like a small package, right? You do have that 16-inch barrel, so technically you can have a 4-end or 4-grip right here that you can have a full grip over. You don't have to have one of those angled 4-grips because it's a pistol. It's not a pistol, it's a rifle now, rifle configuration. Now, Meta Tactical does offer different attachment options that come from them. So they have this little grip here that I didn't put on this one. I don't know why, I just didn't feel like it, but I did put this one on here. So this one on this guy, this is the Glock 17. This is the M&P version down here. But this Glock 17 version, it does have a Glock 17 grip, but it also acts as a magazine holder. Let me get you a magazine to put on here. So you can put a magazine into there, and it does lock in securely, and you have a button right here that you have to release. I'll get into the manual of arms and reloading on this thing in a bit. But yeah, it does stick in there pretty solid, and that's not gonna fly out on you while you're running around. Moving on back, the charging handle, like I mentioned, is aluminum, and it does basically just rack the front of that slide to chamber around. So here, you can see there, I'm manipulating that slide from the front over here. Now moving on down, you do have a plastic trigger that basically has a bar that goes all the way back and manipulates this little plastic piece right here. As you can see, let me double check. You can see right there, every time I pull the trigger, it pushes that like bar back. Now I do want to mention this. Bullpups notoriously have horrible triggers right from the factory, and there's hardly anything you can do to make them better than what they are. With these, even though these are a Bullpup style, I guess, design now, where once you put your gun in there, now the magazine goes in the back. The trigger is not horrible. It's probably, and it's weird saying this because this is not really a Bullpup because it didn't come as a Bullpup from the factory. The handgun came as a Glock 17 or a Smith & Wesson M&P. But now that it's in a Bullpup configuration, whatever trigger you put in there, like this Glock 17 has a really nice tuned tactical trigger, I believe is what I have in there. And it is extremely nice on these chassis systems here, or these carbine conversion kits. So whatever trigger you have in your handgun of choice that you're going to put in here is going to be basically the same feeling, just with a plastic trigger here. Moving on back, you do have this crossbar safety, which is a really nice option. Sometimes there's chassis systems that are out there, that's not this one here, that don't have some sort of safety on them, which is kind of sketchy. So usually if you're gonna carry something like this in a bag or something like that, you wouldn't want to have a round chambered in there. But this one does have a nice crossbar safety that does work and function fine. So right there, you can see I'm pulling the trigger as hard as I can, push that safety over, there you go. I do wish that it was a AR-15 style safety, because this is kind of giving me AR-15 ergonomic vibes down here. So I just want to have something I'm a little bit more familiar with, where I could just flip that guy down and flip it back up whenever I want to. This is it's just something that I'm not used to. You can get used to it. It's just something that it just takes me a little bit more effort to push that button over, just because I'm not used to it. It's just going to take training. Now you do have an AR-15 style grip right here. You can put other AR-15 grips of your choosing on this, so it just has that one bolt like an AR-15 has. So you're good to go on that if you don't like this grip here. You do have the ejection port area here, and this has this little like brass deflector here, so it's not hitting you in the face, right? So Usually with a Bullpup, they're pretty good on not having the brass smack you in the face. It's just an extra precaution that they're taking here, so it's not smacking you in the eye or potentially flying up. And I've always had a piece of brass land on my glasses, and that's not good. And like I mentioned earlier, this is that little piece here that goes across the trigger, and you just pop that pin out to take out your gun. I do wish that that piece was possibly metal or something. I feel like this being a plastic piece, it's just gonna wear and tear a lot faster than a metal piece, especially since this is the piece that's gonna be taken in and out a lot. Now moving a tiny bit back, you do have an adjustable stock. It has, let me see how many positions in there. 1, 2, 3, like 5 or 6 positions. But I do want to mention something, and before I mention that, there's a little lever right here is how you adjust it. So push that and you just pull out. So I do want to mention that when you have that fully closed, right, there's your slide locks back like that, right? So you have a slide lock here, which is on your gun itself. That slide lock is the way basically you put your magazine in. This isn't the right magazine. You put your magazine in, right, and you just hit that slide lock or that slide release. When you have this stock fully collapsed, that slide release is completely covered. It's I think that's a design flaw in my eyes. I guess if you're not a normal human being and you have short hands, you're gonna have a issue with that. You cannot hit that slide lock once that's collapsed, and that works for 2 positions. So if I pull it back once, it's still covered. If I pull it back one more time, that's when it's exposed. So you would have to have it at least in the 2nd position or 3rd position in order for that thing to be functional. So not really sure what Meta Tactical can do about that, but that is just simply you cannot use it when it's fully collapsed. Me, I'm not a very huge dude, and when it's fully collapsed like this, I do feel a little bit scrunched up, so I do like it in the 3rd or 4th position anyways, so it's perfectly fine where I expand it there. But regardless of that issue, if you did have to reload while it was fully collapsed, all you have to do is once the slide is locked back, you just simply put your magazine in, and you can't hit that, right? So you're just gonna have to rack it from the front. So it's just gonna take you a tiny bit longer, but it's not gonna be a huge issue. If you really wanted to utilize this charging handle here, it can work. But this stock is extremely solid. It doesn't feel like it's gonna move or shift on me at all. So once I have it placed into my shoulder, it feels really, really nice. Now getting into the manual of arms, you do reload from the rear here. Charging handle up here, slide is locked to the rear. So as soon as you put that magazine in, hit that slide release and you're good to go. The way to release that magazine, and this it's interesting. I was trying to get used to it out there. I just need more time behind it, especially with this magazine right here at the front that's held onto there, but I'll get into that right now. But you push this here, there's a little like textured piece here that pushes the mag release. And I thought I was gonna have issues pushing that mag release out, but it's actually pretty well done. I figured I needed it to be a little bit more extended out because it sits kind of flush on the body itself, but I didn't have an issue with that whatsoever. And it does have it on the other side, so if you are a lefty and your gun is configured for, you can switch it to this side and you can push it on that side too. I had a little bit of a tough time trying to learn this one here just because the magazine sits here. I think if I didn't have the magazine up front here and I was just grabbing from my pouches or something like that, it'd be a lot faster. But I was trying to manipulate it here and it was just weird. It was a lot of buttons to push. So I had a magazine in here, right? So put that up there. So once I was done shooting, boom, 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 locks back, come back here. I push that magazine out, come up here, push that button to pull that out, come up here, push that up, then have to hit that slide release there. I'm a little slow, guys, so when it comes to pushing multiple buttons, my brain kind of overloads and I screw everything up. So I think I'd rather just pull it out of my pouch and reload that way. But that's just me. You guys are way smarter than me, so you probably have no issue with that whatsoever. Now, as far as size goes, again, this is a bullpup style gun now. You have a full 16-inch barrel, but it is still a very small and compact little package here. I do have the MCK, or the MCK, and this is the full length configuration here. I just don't have a gun in it. But if you're looking at this compared to the Apex kit here, you do have a very, very close size comparison here, and this one you cannot have that 16-inch barrel. You just have whatever barrel you have in your existing firearm. So it's really neat having a 16-inch barrel now on a bullpup style gun. Now there you have it, guys. I pretty much went over all the details on this guy here, or on these two here. I do want to get a little bit deeper into it. I did take it out and shot maybe at like 80 yards or something like that, just to play with the accuracy a little bit. But I do want to bench it and get some good accuracy testing and see if there's a huge difference between the 16-inch barrel and the 4.5 or the 5-inch barrels that I have in the original guns there, to see if there's a performance difference at distance or something like that that you're getting out of these two. But definitely the benefit that you're getting out of this is you're getting multiple points of contact now. Instead of just having that handgun, you do have this point of contact here, and you can grip it from the front here now. I also still want to test it with like a laser on here to see how well it holds zero, and again a suppressor on there to see if it causes any malfunctions. And on the topic of malfunctions, I did have some malfunctions, but I don't know if it was operator induced or if it was actually induced from the firearm. I have to keep testing these two guys in order for me to see what the actual issue was. But my theory is it was me not doing what I was supposed to, meaning when I shoot this floating on my shoulder, if I don't have a good grip on it and I'm not bringing that in all the way into my shoulder, it does have a little hang up every once in a while where it kind of has a failure to feed. So yeah, there were some instances where I was like shooting weird or just letting it float out here and shoot from the hip or something like that, that I would have like a malfunction, failure to feed type malfunction. Once I was just putting it on my shoulder the whole time, I never had an issue. It's just weird that I was having those issues without that point of contact back here. It's just telling me it probably has something to do with the weight of that barrel. So maybe it does the same effect you have if you like limp wrist a gun, right? If anybody that knows anything about handguns and stuff, if you limp wrist like a Glock, it will have that similar malfunction where it like failure to feed or a failure to extract the casing. It just has malfunction. So you got to grip onto that gun nice and tight and have a good fundamental basis when you're shooting that handgun so it can operate right. And on this, I feel it's the same thing. I have to have those points of contact and have a good solid foundation for it to function right, because I think all the weight of that barrel is going to cause those malfunctions. So if you are having malfunctions with yours, I would suggest just gripping it a little bit tighter and holding it into your body more and not letting that thing bounce on you a little bit more. Because this thing, as it is, it's 9mm and it's really controllable to shoot. But aside from that, the gun is solid inside there. I didn't feel anything unlocking, even though this is all plastic. I didn't feel anything like coming apart or coming loose. I didn't see any screws popping out, even though it does kind of look a little bit or feel a little bit cheapish. Is not cheap. This plastic is a really nice solid material. You can see at the bottom here that I was resting it on rocks and stuff like that. I don't know if you can see it, but I was resting it on rocks and it was grinding on those rocks and it still was putting up fine with it. I am going to do a lot more testing with these two here because I think they're a hell of a lot of fun, and that's what I would suggest you get these for, right? Is just to have fun. You have a Glock 17, you have an M&P, you have a P80 that's just sitting around collecting dust or something like that. Go out, slap a 16-inch barrel in there, have some fun, and you'll be good to go. I had a ton of fun filming those videos, especially when I was doing that Call of Duty prone shooting on that rock. That hurt, but that was super fun. And thank you to my buddy Greg for being out there and shooting these with me and having fun with me as well. But yeah, just wanted to show you guys really quick what these things are, because I did have a lot of people ask me what the hell is even that on my Instagram channel. So thank you all so much for sticking around. Appreciate you all. Love you all. Catch you in the next one.